Hello and welcome back to the channel. So if you saw my previous video, you would have known that the tree islands that were holding up all sorts of projects are now gone. And today we're gonna try to finish mapping out the perimeter for the vegetable garden. And again, as I've mentioned before in other videos, the vegetable garden is sort of the key to the entire garden. Once the vegetable garden's in, the rose garden can then be mapped out, and then so on and so forth. And eventually we'll do the flower garden in the front. Actually, there'll be several flower gardens, I believe. I'm thinking of doing dahlia garden. It's a specific type of flower. And then maybe a mixed flower garden. So we'll maybe have some roses in there, rose bushes, maybe climbing roses. There'll be daisies, there'll be agapanthus, there'll be the whole lot. That'll go up front, and that'll more than likely be a project for next year. This year, again, starting off with the completion of the vegetable garden, at least the perimeter, putting in the remaining raised beds. The in-ground raised beds will go in probably another week, and then again start mapping out the rose garden and the other gardens for the property. So to do this, I'm going to get a tape measure, a very long one, and I'm going to get some bamboo stakes and a hammer, and we're going to start doing this. We have a hammer. We're going to use this for tamping down the stakes. We have tape measure. This is a 100-foot long tape measure, and the garden's only going to be 40 feet wide, and then it's going to be 80 feet deep. This may not do the trick because that was weird. This may not do the trick because we need to also go diagonally on the garden to try to get the garden as square as possible. Basically, I want it to be a nearly perfect rectangle. It won't be a perfect rectangle. That just won't happen. But if I can get it close to perfect, I'd be pretty happy with that. Also have bamboo stakes. I have a total of 6 of these. Sorry, it's a horrific bug. I have a total of 6 of these that I can use to start marking out not only where the other fence posts go, but again to help me square up the garden. And once I start putting in the remaining fence posts, these will act as markers as to where those fence posts go. If that makes any sense to you, hopefully it does. Again, this is the front fence post along the driveway side of the garden. So I essentially had marked out in a previous video the drilled and installed these fence posts. So I have 2 corners already done, and again today I'm going to try to mark out the rest of them. So let's get marking. Oops, I'm already way off. There's a better way to do this. So having dragged my tape out, I know this is approximately 40 feet. And I say approximate because there's some wiggle in the tape and it's not perfect. All right, I just banged that in just to get a rough idea. And now I'm gonna do I'll do 40 feet. I have a wood pile in the way. I will do 40 feet as best as I can on the back side, and then we'll drive another stake. When I had the professionals come in and cut down the trees, I asked them to grind everything up, and I'm left with 2 very large piles of wood chips. I love it. I'm going to use all of it. Some of it will be used to help improve the soil. Also, the wood chips behind me will be used for the pathways in and around the raised beds. So again, cardboard, and then probably a fairly, let's say, 3 to 4 inch thick layer of wood chips. It'll all eventually rot down and compress down. And yes, I know eventually the grass will find a way to grow up through it and around it. But for now, it'll be a little nicer to look at, and I won't have to mow it. There's probably 101 other things I can use with the wood chips from fill, because I plan on putting a little mound in the front. And again, that'll be another video for another day. and also fill in the ground where they took out the trees and the tree stump. And I'm sure I'll find more uses for it. So in the meantime, let me measure out the back. Okay, so now this should be about 40 feet from the back fence post over there. Now, if I look, it doesn't seem quite in line with the front fence post or the front bamboo stake I just put in. And that's fine, because again, we're just measuring 40 feet off. So now the next measurement I'm going to take is from front to back or back to front. That should be about 80 feet. If that's 80 feet, we're getting more on the mark. Then the next step we'll do is we'll try to measure from corner to corner diagonally. And again, that should give me, if both those numbers match up, let's say, I'm going to pull a number out of my, it should be, let's say 100 from one corner to the other corner diagonally. And again, 100 to one corner to the other corner diagonally. That number's not exact. I don't know what that number will be. I'm not a mathematician. I'm terrible at math. This is all my best guess. 39, 40. So that's correct. So I'm thinking that back one is way off. 80. That should be about 80. So this fence post is not bad. Just not great. We're gonna move it and remark it. I'm gonna remeasure the back because I seem to be a foot off. Actually, I seem to be 2 feet off now. So I'm over 2 feet off. Huh. Okay. Okay, so going to remeasure again from front to back, make adjustments as needed. I'm going to do this a bunch of times, then I'll do the diagonal. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but we're still off. So far as the distance, we're off about 9 inches. So I'm just going to simply move the stake, trying to keep it even where we last were. So now it's about 80, which is good. And if I measured out from the other post, I should be 40. So now I can start doing the diagonal measurements. So I measured the one side, it's 86 feet, 7 inches. So I'm going to measure the other diagonal, and hopefully I get something close. So I'm 86 feet, 7 inches on one diagonal, and I'm 92 feet, like 3 inches on the other diagonal. So that tells me something's definitely not square, and we're definitely not right. So I'm going to do a bunch of more measurements and see if I can't get these posts squared away. Once I get the corner posts squared away, I can then use them to measure out where all the other posts are going to go. And again, this isn't going to be perfect, but if I can get it near perfect, I'd be happy. All right, and we got 80 feet here. So that then tells me the only distance that could be wrong is the back distance. So I'm going to remeasure that again, and then we'll do the diagonals again. 40 feet. Okay, 40 feet. That should do it. You know, the one thing I'm not accounting for is the straightness of the box, as it were. So again, I'm doing rectangle, but I'm going based off of where my pre-existing posts are. So I know the front and the back are 80 feet apart, but maybe I can draw this on the screen, but are they like this? So is this back corner post at a diagonal or at an angle, not an angle, what's the word I'm looking for? Is it not quite, I know they're parallel, but is the back further back and is the front further back? So again, 80 feet, yes, but are they lined up? I'm gonna try though. I'm gonna keep trying. That's all I can do. Not a mathematician. If you know of an easier way, please put a comment below. I might have to Google how to do this better and then make some more minor adjustments. Yeah, I'm way off again. So the last measurement was 92 feet, like 4 inches, and here we are 86.7. So the rectangle is off. I need to fix that. Okay, so hopefully you can hear me and hopefully this is working. I readjusted the front angle. As I suspected, the measurements were off. So the angles were off, and thus when I measured out diagonally, my measurements were off. So I've kind of squared up the front now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to square up the back, but I can try. My measurements are much closer now. I'm 89 one way and 89 10 inches the other way. So I'm much more in line now than I was before. And even if I leave it this way, I don't think that I'll ever notice it, especially once the space starts getting filled out with everything that's going to have. Where I'm standing right now is going to be the gate leading onto the grand walkway. And then over here, we're going to have 4 more beds. Hopefully the materials for some of those come in soon, because I have tomatoes that need to get planted out and cucumbers, and I have peas and beans and other things that I'd love to be planting out very, very soon, but I need the beds and the soil to go in the beds. I'll have 4 beds here filled with soil, filled with all sorts of wonderful vegetables. There should be, I believe there's going to be a 4-foot gap to the walkway, the center walkway that will go down here. I will start putting out the posts for that, and if you subscribe, you'll then be able to see or follow along with the progress as this space starts filling out. But there'll be a center walkway. I probably won't do that for another year or 2. My dream is to do that in brick. We'll see. Maybe pavers. Again, we'll see. Pavers, ooh, maybe pavers with brick edging. Huh? That sounds pretty slick, and I think it would save me a boatload of money, but that's neither here nor there. So 4 more beds. Approximately here, there's going to be a walkway, and then over here, there are going to be 4 in-ground beds. I'm going to do the no-dig method. If you haven't heard about it, search YouTube, no-dig, search Charles Dowding. He's a English gardener. The guy has been researching and experimenting with plants and planting for a trillion years, but essentially it's do not disturb the soil. There are earthworms in this soil. There's other things within the soil, even though it's compacted clay. To till it up and to try to do it, it's just going to be an utter nightmare. Instead, what's probably better off is I'm going to take cardboard, I'm going to lay it in the ground where the beds are going to go. I'm going to put a ton of compost on top of that. I'm going to plant into that. Eventually, with the rains and the weather, the cardboard will break down. Earthworms, which I know are abundant in this soil, they'll be coming up to eat that cardboard to get into the good mulch. They'll eventually start pulling all that down into the ground. At least that's the theory. And then next year, the raised the mounds of compost that I have by next spring should be virtually gone, because they'll be pulled into the ground. And then I just throw more compost on top of that, repeat and rinse and repeat, just keep going. Right about here, there'll be a crosswalk going out this way. If you can still see me and where I'm pointing, there will be the entrance to the rose garden. And then, well, actually almost where the camera is right now, I hope to do a potting shed eventually. Maybe not this year, but eventually, maybe this fall, this winter, do a potting shed where basically where the camera is, where you're looking from. Next to it, a greenhouse. I'm thinking 8 by 12. You know, again, all this is subject to change. The biggest thing was, though, to get the perimeter basically in line, to get the perimeter sort of staked out. Over the next few weeks, I'll be putting in the posts, much as you've seen on the one side. I need to complete that one side. Then I can start working on the fence on the front once I get my final. Again, I probably may tweak this a bit more, but I'm not going to bore you to death with it. I think this video has been boring enough. I'll build my gate. My gates will go in. For all you dahlia lovers out there, if you're watching this right now, I know a few of you have subscribed to the channel and I thank you. But if you're a dahlia lover, right in front, right here of the whole vegetable garden, eventually we'll go hedging. This year though, since I have a bunch of dahlias, and I have no dahlia garden yet. So I'm going to put all the dahlias right here in front of the vegetable garden. The neighbors will love it, I'll love it, and I'll have fencing to help tie off too. There's a lot of wind around here. I don't know if you've noticed that if you've been paying attention to these videos. So I will stake each dahlia as you normally do, but then again I'll also use the fencing once it's up in place to help keep those stakes in line and everything kosher and happy. That's about it for today. Yeah, I think that's about it today. If you haven't subscribed, again, I keep badgering people. Please subscribe, tell your friends, family, loved ones, tell that grumpy old guy across the way that I have this goofy channel. I'm building a garden in eastern North Carolina. I'm going to be facing challenges that I've never known. I'm trying to grow my green finger. If you haven't subscribed to me on Instagram, give a subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.